America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Here by my brother Mike Wachira in Nairobi, and today we are going to have an amazing conversation about fatherhood, and this session is going to be recorded for the African Father in America podcast. I'm joining you from Seattle, Washington. Mike, how are you doing today? How is Nairobi?
I'm good, brother. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Thank you for making the time for today's conversation. Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I just want to welcome everybody who is joining us from Kenya, Nairobi. We would love to know where you're actually joining us from. Just put the flag of your country in the chat and let us know, where you're joining us from. But today we want to, typically every Saturday I love recording a conversation for the African Father in America podcast, especially with fathers and leaders and individuals that I look up to. And today it's really a privilege to be joined by Mike Wachira, who is a well-known journalist in Kenya and also a respected, father. Mike Wachira has worked with K24 TV. He currently works with K24 TV in Kenya, and also he used to work with Homeboys Radio. So today we just want to explore the story of Mike Wachira. What is it that inspires him? What is it that inspires him as a leader today? What story from his childhood does he want to share with us that inspires who he is as an industry leader? And then we are going to explore, what's the future of fatherhood? I'll share my own stories of being a father of 3 girls, and he will also share his stories of being a father, and also just share a few tips and advices, and just have a beautiful conversation. So Mike, thank you again. I see that there is probably a network challenge, and I just want to know, where you're joining us from, what city you're joining us from. As I said earlier, I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I'm a father of 3 girls. I'm originally from Kisumu, Kenya. And, I feel that when it comes to fatherhood, it's something that more brothers and sisters need to engage in and talk about it. Being in the diaspora and being from Kisumu, Kenya, sometimes it's actually very lonely, very confusing, very difficult. And I feel that one of the things also about fatherhood is that it's also beautiful. You learn so much by being a father. So I'm excited to share my own story in just a moment, but I want to focus on my guest, Mike Wachira, who is joining us from Nairobi. Mike, I want to hear you for a moment. How are you doing? And do you feel that you're at a place where there is a little bit of a stable connection?
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me? I can hear you very well.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you from my end.
I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I didn't realize that we had an audio challenge earlier.
No problem. But you can hear me now?
I can hear you very well. Thank you again for your patience. For the whole time, I thought that my audio was functioning well, but for some reason, you could not hear me. I'm just excited for today's conversation, man. How are you?
I'm good, my brother. I'm good. How are things where you are?
Things are great. Today is my oldest daughter's birthday. She's turning 8. So, it's just preparation to celebrate her. She's beginning to understand what this life is all about. And
how old is she turning?
8. She's turning 8.
Hey, man. Happy birthday to her.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Earlier on, you are also at a basketball game with your son or something like that.
Yeah. He does basketball on Saturdays. And so the game, his practice sessions were pushed to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So here we are now.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation, and I did an intro. It was like I was rehearsing because nobody could hear me. But, the reason why I'm excited about today's conversation is that I've actually been talking to many other fathers of African descent, some here in Seattle where I am. About 2 weeks ago, I talked to Fancy Fingers from Sauti Soul. And
Right.
I just feel that we need to have more conversations, especially, young African fathers who are just I feel that all of us are figuring things out. We are learning the same way that our fathers especially parented us is quite different to the way that we do it now, And I feel that the more we talk about it, the more we can inspire other African fathers globally to stay with their families, build their communities, and just be great human beings, And I feel that you're one of those people that I have a lot of love and respect for, just looking at the career that you've built, in the media in Kenya. Your work, when I was researching for our conversation today, I looked at your work with Homeboys. The number of years you spent there required a lot of learning, being a great student, and also,
Absolutely.
being a great father figure to quite a few people, because the way that you handed over your roles there was quite honorable. And then, the work you're doing now, and also your work as a father. So I wanted you to, just introduce yourself briefly. If there's anything I missed, introduce yourself, especially to the people who are meeting you for the first time. And then I want us to, take a little journey, to your childhood. Like, what is it that is the story, or the story that inspires who you are today? Thank you again for being here with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Simon. And I'm very honored to be here on your platform. I also see the work that you do, and I applaud you for having the important conversations that need to be had. I think you're really putting yourself out there in terms of being able to advance the right kind of discussions. And I think it's important that the more of us do these sorts of things, we can make these normal discussions and conversations to have. So thank you very much. So yeah, where to begin? Wow. Okay. So I do many things. I wear many hats.
Yeah.
Dad, husband, father, human rights advocate, DJ, MC, broadcaster. So I do it all.
But one thing I have to add to that list is also, your engaging Instagram posts. You always curate very, very, thought-provoking statements every day. So I would love for you to speak about that at some moment. Communication, I think you're just gifted with keeping people engaged with what you have to say,
I think having been in radio 13 years, that has helped.
Yeah.
Learn how to engage and communicate with people in a way that is engaging and draws in conversations, but also doing it in a way that doesn't cause any more harm and gives people an opportunity to have very meaningful discussions where people feel that their opinions and perspectives are respected. What I try to do with my platform is to ensure that everybody has a chance to give up their perspectives on whatever topic we're discussing, and that everybody feels safe, and that it's not a place where people come and pick on one another or are intolerant to different perspectives. So what I try to ensure is that my space is a very safe place for people to come and talk and just air their thoughts and ideas out.
Excellent. I do have a question, Mike. Have you invited our guests, or did I invite them? I see that.
I think you are the one who has invited them.
Wow, how did I do that? Hold on. Anyhow, I actually haven't done that, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's probably Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't invited anyone, but let's see. Let's just watch it, because these apps, you know, they also have a life of their own.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah. I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful, and I know that it's not easy to carry so many hats. When you talk about you being a man of, a man wearing many hats, you know, you are, and it's something that I also deal with. But then, when you add fatherhood to that and just staying sane, it now goes beyond, you know, just the experience you've had by the work you've done professionally, or age. It goes a little deeper, you know. I think it goes towards leadership, you know. And I wanted you to, for me, whenever I think about why I'm able to do some of the work that you're speaking to, whether it's One Vibe Africa, whether it's some of the events I've been producing here in Seattle or back in Kenya, it's primarily because when I was 8 years old, my mother gave me a bike and encouraged me to help her with distributing milk and bread in our neighborhood in Kisumu, you know, in Manyata.
Right.
And so since then, I've always just felt, I've always felt that if I could do that, I can do anything. You know, I feel that that's what drives me. And so I wanted you to take us back a little bit, maybe to a time when you were 8 to 12, and maybe give us a virtual tour of where you grew up, so that we can just paint for us, you know, some of the food, the colors, the places, and then we'll come back to now, because you have a long story. We could have a series, maybe a 1 month series of just unpacking who you are, but we want to do it in an hour, and I want you to take us back to that time.
All right.
In your story.
Okay, so I'll begin my story like this. So, growing up, I grew up in Nairobi, and so I have an older sister and a younger brother. And the place where I grew up was very interesting because it was an area where there were a lot of well-to-do families, and we were doing all right. I think we were not too badly off, but I immediately did not feel like I was able to fit into any particular group, because these were kids who were sons and daughters of ministers and prominent public figures. And so I was just from an ordinary family, and they went to the schools that, there are those schools that the cool kids go to, and so they all formed these sorts of cliques and groups, which I felt I didn't really fit into. And so I think right there and then began my journey in trying to ask myself who I am and where I fit in and where I belong in this thing called life. I don't feel like I belong in any particular group, but does that mean that I'm an outcast? Does that mean that I am not worthy to be around such people? So I started asking myself very deep questions about that. And then I lost my dad when I was about 14 years old. So that was a very difficult time for us. And one of the things that I immediately began to see was how my mom was able to just galvanize and be able to bring the family together and really put one foot in front of the other, despite her grief and despite the challenges that were going on. I don't think we felt that loss as much as we would have if she had not really stepped up the way she did. So I am a student of hers in terms of how she has handled life, how she has handled challenges. And I think for me, I was able to see that there are certain things that you can do to overcome those sorts of challenges. And I was able to learn from her how to be strongly independent, how to build networks, how to be able to build my social capital, how to be able to become more self-aware, how to stand my ground, how to be, to communicate my boundaries and my principles and my decisions. And the most important thing I think I learned was not really caring about what other people thought about my situation, but understanding that it was important for me to be comfortable with the decisions that I'm making about myself, and being able to communicate those clearly. So I think I was very, very lucky to have watched how she did that, and I learned from that. And so fast forward many years later, I think those are lessons that I have carried with me. And I think the fact that she, made it very deliberate to build a relationship with each one of us as her children is also something that I've carried into fatherhood. But I think for me, one of the things that has made me very aware about the kind of parenting style I want to have is the fact that when I was thinking about losing my dad so early, and I was thinking about how nice it would have been to be able to see a video of him and I kicking a football when I was 4 years old, or him and I just taking a walk, or just doing some activity together. And I remember going back into the family albums, trying to look for those sorts of memories. And I really couldn't find anything like that, And so I felt this longing, which I still do actually. I felt this longing, like how beautiful it would have been for me to be able to see those experiences and carry them with me. And so I was very deliberate then to ensure that I was able to capture those kind of moments with my son. So I have videos of him from the day he was born until 5 minutes ago. So that then, in the event that he would need to recall those sorts of memories, he has all those frames of reference. And I've been deliberate in capturing his first experiences in life. So, for example, the first time he went for a swimming competition, the first time he climbed a mountain, the first time we went hiking, the first time, we went go-karting, the first of everything. I am there and he's there. And so when he thinks to those seminal moments in his life, he will always have that frame of reference, and he has it documented so that then he's able to see it.
Man, what you're saying is really incredible. And I was just refusing a phone call there because what you're saying is so amazing, and it actually reminds me to just add a question before we continue on with our set questions for today's session. I feel that maybe you could, since you're a journalist and you're someone who is a public figure, and you also have you have a child. How do you then, and you document their story the way you're describing, which is super important, but you use a cell phone, and then you have the option to store it or share it on social media, and a lot of people who are in your position actually take advantage of social media, and they share stories of their children, and they document it that way. But other people, especially like you actually don't have much of your son's stories on social media unless it's a critical moment, or it's something big that is being celebrated. Could you just share with me why and how do you find a balance? What should you share about your children on social media, and what should you share? What should you not share?
I think for me, social media is that you have to look at it as a tool and a medium for achieving specific things. So one of the things is understanding that it can be a very progressive place, but it can also be a very dangerous place if you are not careful about how you're engaging in it. So for me, I've been very deliberate, and I think as parents, we've been very deliberate to ensure that whatever it is that we share, especially about him, is something that is meant to inspire, particularly other fathers, to be able to understand and appreciate that they can have relationships with their children, and there are things that they can do, so that then a relationship with your child doesn't necessarily have to be something that is baggage to you. It doesn't have to be something that you struggle to do, because you hear many parents saying, oh, now what am I going to do with a kid who's this age? How do we engage? What do we even talk about? So one of the things I'm trying to show, especially dads out there, is that, look, there are a lot of fun things that you can do with your kids, and it doesn't necessarily even have to cost anything. The most important thing that you have to know is that the biggest gift you can give to a child is your time. And it is your presence and not your presence that matter. So that then once you understand that your time is the most valuable thing that you could give to your children, then you will be more deliberate about how you spend your time, how you factor in your day to ensure then that you give your child the best part of you during the day. Because mostly what we do is we come home from work and you're late, you're tired, you're exhausted. And so the part that your children will get from you is you being this very miserable human being who's just tired and exhausted all the time. And so you have to look at how to factor in your kids into your daily routine to ensure then that they get the best of you, not you when you're exhausted and you're tired and you're all that. So for me, I'm very, very deliberate then in the things that I share, because I'm trying to push a certain narrative. I'm trying to, create a different thinking about parenting, especially for dads. And so I realize that I can do that with selecting what I share, and then I don't have to show everyone everything all the time.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Then now when I love your response, because it's something I struggle with. It's something that I know that many people who are watching this conversation struggle with, because protecting your children, but also giving other, sharing in a way that it educates other people. It's a delicate balance. But once you start seeing your kids being able to play basketball games, being able to do things like my daughter who is turning 8 today, then you have to start talking to them. You're at a place where you need to start engaging them and making sure you involve them in some of these things that you share about them, because soon they will be on the same social media platforms,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so it's quite the situation. But now I want us to move a little more, and I wanted you to just, this is a question I didn't ask, but I feel that it's really necessary. You're someone who has accomplished a lot. In Kenya, it's not every day that you find someone like you who has been at Homeboys Radio for like 15 years now. Well, 13 years, but 15 years since then, and the work that journalists do, the work that you do, with your career is something that you could speak to, some of your biggest accomplishments, particularly some of the things that still excite you about being a journalist. Just share with us a few highlights, and then from there I would love for us to go into the next segment, where we are going to talk about the future of fatherhood, because now we are living in a situation where, as I was saying earlier, I was doing chores before this show. I was cleaning the house, doing dishes, just taking care of the entire place, because it's my daughter's birthday. You'd never find me doing that in Kenya,
Yeah.
In Kenya, I just sit there and relax. My sisters don't even allow me to do that, So how do we share our stories in a way that other brothers out there, they humble themselves? Because a lot of the time we refuse to humble ourselves until life humbles us,
Humbles you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speak to your career, just highlight some of the amazing work that you've done.
Yeah, I think for me, radio was a blessing, and it gave me an opportunity to be able to learn how to communicate about things that I felt were important to me to communicate. It gave me an opportunity to learn how to shift narratives, especially narratives which I felt were holding men back, and narratives which I felt were not very valuable for the days and the times that we live in. And so it gave me an opportunity to understand how to frame those narratives, how to be able to address things which are not very popular topics to address, but which are important to address. So I felt for me that 13-year career was such a blessing. Now I'm on TV, and I do a show every Friday with Valentine Joroge on K24 TV, which is another platform that I'm truly, truly grateful for. Gives us the opportunity to have very, very difficult discussions. Like on Friday, we were discussing the divorce process in Kenya, and everything that it entailed. And so I felt like we blessed a lot of people with that conversation. So for me, I think that's a really, really important space for me. So I'm very happy that I have those platforms. But I think also taking it online has also given me an opportunity to engage with a wider audience, and just given me a chance to really understand how to be, a very relatable person and a very approachable and reachable person. I didn't want to be the kind of person who, people look up and say, oh my God, this person is so far removed from us. And, this is not somebody I feel I can talk to about anything. I wanted people to feel like I'm just that guy next door who just going through life exactly the same way you are. The same things you struggle with are the same things I struggle with. But you know what? Let's have a conversation about these things we struggle with and see if, we can learn from one another. So it's not me teaching anybody, but giving everybody a chance to come into this space where we educate one another and we're able to share perspectives and we're able to respect other people's opinions and diverse thoughts and ideas. So that's one. So that's for me in media. But I also work for a women's rights NGO where I've worked for 17 years now. And that has also been a real blessing for me, because we've been able to do such amazing work in terms of championing the rights of women and girls. And, from policy level, changing policies and laws and ensuring we have got very progressive judgments from the courts that have been able to protect girls, especially in schools, and girls who are at the risk of teacher-student sexual violence, especially. We've done a lot of work in supporting women in leadership. We've done a lot of work in championing sexual reproductive health and rights for women and girls. So I've done a lot of work, which I'm very, very proud of, because I feel it has really expanded the space for women and girls to, enjoy their rights a bit more. But in doing that work, I've also realized that there is a need to be able to pull and bring men and boys along in these conversations that we're having, because you can't be talking about a society where there's equality and equity if there's a bit, there's an imbalance. And what we are beginning to see more and more is that we need to put more effort in bringing boys, especially, on board in these conversations, so then we are all moving at the same pace and the same understanding about the kind of society and community that we want to create. So one of the things that I've been very deliberate about doing is ensuring that I work with the boys in the community where I am. So even the basketball that we've just come from was me working with boys who are about the age of 11, 12, and 13. Why? Because these are boys who, if we're able to interrupt the harmful socialization processes that they go through and help them understand about how to treat each other, and especially women and girls, with dignity and respect, and observe boundaries and understand bodily autonomy and understand things like consent and rejection and, those sorts of things, we will begin to arrest a lot of the behavioral problems that we see in society today, especially around issues of gender-based violence. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm feeling like it's starting to gain traction slowly. And I'm trying to encourage as many fathers as possible to join me in these conversations with their boys, so that then we're able to begin mentoring a different generation that thinks in a more progressive and different way. And we ensure then that we're creating a society where everybody feels seen, everybody feels respected and treated with dignity.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. I had no idea that you are involved with that type of work. Congratulations, congratulations, for the work you've been doing with, women's rights, and also for the work that you've done as, in the media. But to everybody who is just joining us, this conversation is being recorded for the African Father in America podcast, which is available across all podcasting platforms. And today my guest is my brother, Mike Wachira, who is doing amazing work, as he was just describing, with an amazing NGO. What's the name of the NGO that you work with?
It's called Center for Rights, Education and Awareness, CREW.
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. And, we've been talking about amazing things. We talked about the story from my brother's childhood that inspires him today as a leader. We talked about, an highlight of his career, what are some of the things that he's proud of. And now we want to move on a little bit, but we also talked about, just, documenting the story of your children, and whether you should share it on social media or not, and the risks and the benefits of all of that. But now we want to just move ahead a little, because we have another 24 minutes before the end of our conversation. I want to just ask you to share with us, you as you are describing, because of the work you do, especially with the NGO, for the last 17 years, you definitely, and also because of what you do in the community, and just as a father, I want you to share with us some perspectives, like when you think about fatherhood in the future, how, let's say, your son, what kind of a father do you think he's going to be? And also for us, for me and for you, from this moment over the next few years, what can we do to do better?
I think we're all products of our socialization. Now, whether you remain that product is completely up to you, because there are some of us who are raised in trauma. There are some of us who are raised with absentee parents. There are some of us who are raised in abusive homes. There are some of us who are raised in very loving homes. So we all have a different experience of childhood. And what I've seen is that most people parent the way they were parented. So most of us will parent the way we were parented. If your parents were strict and they were harsh and they were, that sort of thing, that is going to naturally be your default setting unless you deliberately change it. So that then, if you know that there's something that, and there's a friend of mine who told me that all of us carry trauma from our childhood. And our childhood trauma could be from parents, it could be from friends, it could be from somewhere, teachers, it could be anywhere, but we all have trauma that we carry from our childhood. And it is up to us then to decide whether we are going to let that trauma end with us, or we're going to carry on that trauma to the next generation, and that is our children. And so I think the first important thing we must all do is be deliberate in creating relationships with our children. Why that is important is because in the day and age that we live, we cannot carry on the parenting styles that our parents had. We are living in an age where children are more educated. Children have more access to information than we did when we were younger. And so they're more aware of their rights. They're becoming self-aware very quickly, very early. And, they're asking very critical questions about life. And if we as parents are not prepared to guide them and support them in, their life's journey as they ask these critical questions about themselves and about life, then we'll be setting them up for failure. So we as parents then have to do some sort of re-engineering where we understand then that it can't be an authoritative sort of, relationship where you're just shouting at your kids all the time and expecting them to just obey, everything that you say as a command and never question or ask anything. Because, for example, we're now in a day and age where we're looking at accountability as a very critical factor for life. We're asking ourselves very hard questions about our elected representatives, about people who are in power. If you do not encourage your children to ask questions when they're young, how do we expect that they will grow up into those citizens who can ask the right questions, the difficult questions, and seek accountability from one another in the environments and communities that they're living in? So if your child asks you a question and you immediately shut them down and you shout at them or you ignore them, you are actually setting them up for failure. The kind of society we want is one where people are accountable, people are able to, be transparent, people are able to speak their mind, people are able to be direct about the things that they desire and they need and, that are right for them. That's how communities grow. That is how nations develop. But if we are discouraging our children from doing that, then we're just perpetuating a cycle of oppression that will continue for generations to come. So I think for us as parents, the most important thing is to first deliberately create relationships with our children. Then second of all, you want your child to be able to come and tell you when they're struggling with something. So that then as a parent, you're able to be aware of what it is that they are, struggling with, what they're going through, and you become their first frame of reference about life decisions that they have to make. So, for example, I think you've had stories where you hear about police raiding a home in a certain community. And when the parents are told that their son is the one who is carjacking people in the estate or in different areas, they quickly refuse and say, no, my kid is not like that. But then you don't know your child. You've never bothered to find out who your child plays with, who are the people your child hangs out with, where your child is getting socialized about life, about masculinity, about femininity, about who they are and what their place is in this world. We are still in that space where we think because you bring home food and you pay electricity and pay school fees, that is enough in terms of parenting. It's not enough. You need to be deliberate to create a relationship with your child so that if they're struggling with something, they come and tell you. You become their first frame of reference and their first trusted source of information when they need to make decisions about life.
Wow, I love that. I love it, especially because of how you articulate it. It makes sense, and I feel like I've been a student since we started this conversation today. I've been learning a lot, and I'm so glad we were able to make this conversation happen. For those who are joining us, thank you so much. My name is Simon Okello, and I'm in Seattle, Washington. And I'm originally from Kisumu, Kenya. I'm the host of the African Father in America podcast. My guest today is my brother, Mike Wachira. And, we've been having amazing conversations. We've talked about the story that inspires him. And right now we were just talking about, we talked about a few other things. But right now we were just talking about the future of fatherhood. And I just love how he shared with us that you have to be involved. You have to understand the process that your child is going through so that you can walk that journey with them. You can't just be hands-off. And, I know that there are many brothers out there who are also doing a great job, and there are also many brothers out there who are probably going to benefit from our conversation today. They're going to watch it, and like me, they're going to say that this is encouraging. I just need to do a little better, a little more. All of us are trying. Nobody is perfect when it comes to fatherhood. But I want you to just maybe highlight a few fathers that that inspire you, that whenever you think about them, they make you want to do better. Because honestly, I know that I try hard, and some people compliment me that I do a good job, but just listening to how you do it is, I'll leave this place and I'll be very, very, I'll be very, very hyper aware of what's going on in my daughter's life. So, just if you want, you can give a shout out to some fathers that, are in your life that you look up to.
Oh, certainly. I think Ted Josiah is one of the quickest ones that comes to mind because of his story and how he has been a very present. He calls himself the dad mom. And so, how he's been both a dad and a mom for his daughter, how he's continuously present in her life and present in a meaningful way. So for me, I think that's an amazing guy. Jeff Motte is another one who's a fantastic dad. I think he's somebody that we trade war stories here and there. A few other people who may not want to be mentioned on social media, yourself included. I think then there's my cousin. He's called Karoy. He's in Canada. He's also a fantastic father. I think the thing is that there are very many men out there, very many dads who are doing a fantastic job. It's just that they're not as loud about it as you and I may be. And to me, I think that's one of the problems that we have, is that we don't have spaces where we celebrate dads who are doing an amazing job. And that's why we look like we are so few and far between. But there are so many men out there who are really stepping up and doing really, really, really amazing work as fathers and as mentors and as leaders in their families. And so I think one of the things that we must try to do is to try and shine a spotlight on as many of these great men who are out there, who are stepping up and showing up every single day, so that then it doesn't begin to look like it's something completely out of the ordinary, but is something that is normal, because as a parent, this is what is required of you. So if we're able to set this as the standard of normalcy, then I think we will be headed in the right direction, as opposed to it just being the exception to the norm. And so if we are deliberate about shining a spotlight on these great men out there who are doing, a fantastic job as fathers, I think we will be able to set a standard of normalcy and set a very high standard. And I think it is possible.
Yes, it's possible. It's possible. I'll talk to you about that after our conversation. I'll follow up with you and see how we can reach out and hopefully become a platform where more fathers can be involved, and also even younger people who are not fathers yet. I think young especially brothers of African descent are always looking for someone that they can learn fatherhood from, and I struggled with that.
There's one guy I forgot to mention, man. He's really good. He's an amazing man. He's called Mwangera Mutiga. He runs a platform called Papa Bear on Facebook. This guy is absolutely amazing, and I think he's dedicated his time and his life towards helping other men with positive fatherhood and very progressive fatherhood. And so I've had conversations with him quite a bit. Mwangera is an amazing guy. So if you have a chance, please check out his platform called Papa Bear on Facebook. And the conversations he has are absolutely phenomenal.
Man, that's beautiful. Now, I want to make sure that we can also, share with our audience members and everybody who's joining us today how we can support you. This is something I love, and enabling all the guests that I interview, share maybe a project that you're doing that you'd love those who are listening or watching to pay attention to go and support, and also how they can stay connected with you. Please.
Okay. The project that I'm doing right now, which is a very, very silent project, is a project on mental health. And how I do this project is that it's not a loud and direct and very overt project that is out there that has any name or flyers or banners or any sort of thing like that. What I try to ask people to do to support me in this journey are the following things. One is to understand that all of us are put on this earth to thrive. Nobody was put here to be oppressed. Nobody was put here to be abused. Nobody was put here to be limited by anything, whether it is religion or whether it is culture or whether it is tradition or whether it is just societal expectations. So one is for everyone to understand that we are put on this earth to thrive, and thrive, but thrive responsibly. Two is that life would be so much better if we were all kinder to one another for no reason. So I encourage people every day to just be kind to somebody for no reason, without any expectation, without any sort of conditions. Just be kind to people for no reason. Third, I live by the motto, if God has given you more than you need, build a longer table, not a higher fence. That to me is critically important. And then the last thing I do is try and encourage people by asking them this. Each one of us has been given something that we are good at. God has blessed us with something. How are you using what you have been blessed with to make the lives of other people better? Not your life. How are you using the gifts and talents that you have to make the lives of others better? And I know a lot of people are very scared to follow through on their talents and their natural gifts because they're scared of what people would say, or they think it's not the right time to do it, or they think that they're not ready, or they don't have, the resources that is required for them to, pursue those talents. For those people who are in doubt and are asking themselves this question, this is what I ask. The day you meet your maker, and your maker asks you, what did you do with those things I gave you? What are you going to say? Are you going to say I was too scared to do them because of what other people would think? Because I didn't have enough time? I was too busy at work? Can you imagine that conversation with your maker? How awkward it would be, you giving those kind of lame excuses to this amazing being that blessed you with these talents and gifts. So if you can think of that conversation and you have an excuse that you can give your maker, well and good. If you don't, then you owe it to yourself and to the world to be able to use your skills and talents to make life better for others.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're so well spoken. I have to say that. And it's clear that you practice a lot. And you also, how do you do it? I feel that, number one, this is a proposal to you. You should consider starting a communication mentorship program, for look, we have so many influencers, we have so many podcasters, we have so many public speakers, politicians who would benefit so much from your communication advices, so you should consider that. But
thank you.
Yeah, for me personally, I want to thank you, for taking the time for us to have this conversation for the African Father in America podcast, and for us to talk about the future of fatherhood. I definitely learned so much, and I wish those that are going to listen or watch this later, I hope that you learned something, and you'll share something with us in the comments about what is it that you learned. Would you like for us to, bring Mike Wachira back again for us to continue this conversation? And what do you think we did not cover in our conversation today? So make sure you follow Mike Wachira. What's your Instagram handle, or where would you like those who will be listening and watching, this conversation, where should they follow you on social media?
Just right here on Instagram at Real Mike Wachira. That is my primary platform.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to all the people that joined us today here on Instagram for today's conversation. I wanted to say that one way that you can support the African Father in America podcast is by subscribing to our YouTube channel. And also, I have a book that is being published. Well, it's out on March 7th. And if you go to the link tree on my profile, you can, get the pre-sale link and grab a copy of it. It's an amazing book about the work that I've been doing with One Vibe Africa. And, it's a photo book. It's a coffee table photo book. I wish I could show you one. I need to get you one, Mike, in Kenya,
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. I need to get you one. After this, just send me your address and I'll ship one to you. But I'm grateful, and, I can't wait for you, to come back again, and also for us to really collaborate on, just amplifying the work that you're doing, and just making this world a better place. Because for me, if we have stronger fathers who are more present, with less presence, then we are definitely making a difference and making the world a better place. But I do want to, because this is your bread and butter. Number one, how did I do today? And do you have anything you want to say before we end our conversation today?
I just want to say, Simon, thank you so much for the work you're doing with One Vibe Africa, and definitely the conversations that you're having, I think, are really, really, really important. The work that you're doing is so critical, especially changing the narratives about Black men as fathers, which I think is absolutely important, especially for the place where you are in the US. I know Black men get a very, very terrible rap about being present fathers. So I think you're doing a fantastic job. And I just want to celebrate you, the work that you're doing, and just to encourage you to continue, because there are many who are watching, even though they may not say anything. And there are many who are learning, even though they may not contribute. So I think your platform is absolutely necessary. It's absolutely timely and needed. And these conversations are definitely going to change the world, one discussion at a time.
Thank you so much, Mike. That means a lot, especially coming from you. So I'll let you go and have dinner with your family, and you'll see me in your DMs very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon, and happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you so much. Asante sana.
Okay, great. Okay. Have a blessed day.
You too. Take care. Bye.
All right.
African father in America. Tujikaze, jikaze. African father in America. Tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javano.